You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
That's right. Yeah!
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The number you have dialed is not available at present. Please leave your message after the beep.
Yeah, trendsetter. Whoa, league of my own, it don't get better. No, read what I wrote, I'm a bestseller. Yeah, reach for my goals, hit it dead center. Hit it dead center. Bullseye, hit it the most, there's no misses. Something like fish in a barrel, it's no different. Blindfold on me, I still got the most vision. Trendsetter told them before, but they don't
Hans
listen.
and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hope you're all having a great Friday, kicking off the weekend. As we try to make preparations for the NHL coming in Utah, we want to talk to a lot of different variety of sources, people who have experienced what it's like to welcome a new NHL team, what expectations are like. Obviously, the Golden Knights set the bar really high for a team that is coming into the league, and I know Utah inherits a roster. Vegas built one from scratch and obviously did some tremendous things right out of the gate. But joining us now from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, I do the games for Utah State. I've seen this guy on a lot of sidelines covering UNLV, covering everything Vegas. Ed Graney, kind enough to join us. Ed, how you doing?
Hey, Ed.
Good, Scott. How you doing?
Doing well. So, hey, look, you guys obviously, I mean, not you guys, I'm sorry, that paints you in a bad picture, but Vegas obviously had a tremendous start to their franchise. Is it too much to expect Utah to get off to a great start as well when they open up this NHL group?
I mean, I don't think it's too much to ask. I think it's a different scenario. You know, you go back 7 years here, and the Golden Knights, they're the first major league professional team in, but they came in a very unique circumstance with the shooting. They had just about to start, and a lot of those guys in that team had never been to Vegas, never mind been on a team in Vegas. And when the shooting happened, Bill Foley, the owner, really got those guys into the community, at hospitals, all around town, trying to bring life to the city again. And I think that's why the city adopted them on a high level it always has. Now, it helped that they went to the Stanley Cup Finals those first year and that they were good right away. I don't know what would have happened in terms of support had they been like a normal expansion team and lost a lot, but they didn't. So it was a really unique situation with the fans here, and around the time of, one of the worst tragedies that Vegas or America's ever seen, that this team had just started or just came in. They were about to play their first game. I'll always remember that first game and how emotional it was. So not to say that it can't be great in Utah to start, but I just think it's different circumstances and how a fan base was built.
You're talking specifically about the country music concert shooting? Is that?
Yeah, the shooting happened right when literally the same week they were about to open up.
Yeah.
And again, I'll say those players did an incredible job getting into the community, and Bill Foley, the owner, kind of led that charge that they were going to be part of this community to begin with, and it began in very sad circumstances. So I think that will always make them unique. I think that's why they've always had a fan base. It's grown over time, obviously, with how good they've been. Everyone loves a winner. They've won, pretty much every year except they've only missed the playoffs 1 year in 7 years. They won the Cup last year, which brought a sense of pride to the city. So, yeah, very unique fan base. I don't think anything will ever top them in terms of the fans here and their loyalty to this team. They played Dallas tonight. They're down 3-2 in the series. That place will be completely rocking tonight at T-Mobile Arena, trying to get them back to Dallas for a Game 7. So, yeah, it's a really, really strong fan base here for them. And, again, they've always held up their end of the bargain.
Ed, we've got a lot more important things to get to, so don't spend too much time on this. But this is important to the NHL fans in this state that are preparing for this new NHL team in Utah. What was the Golden Knights naming search like, and what was the response from the fan base when they finally came up with the name? Because we're currently in the middle of this name search, and I'm just wondering how important it is. Can you get it wrong? How wrong can it be? And what was the response when Golden Knights was announced?
I mean, I think it was mixed. Bill Foley, obviously an Army guy, West Point grad. He wanted the Black Knights to begin with. That's already taken by a pretty famous, I think it's a parachute jaunt of the Army there. So he went with Golden instead. I'll always remember the unveiling of it. Bettman was there. They unveiled the name. Like any name, it's going to be mixed. You're going to have people who like it and don't like it. You're never going to get everyone to be or unanimous on that situation. So, but it grew on them. And again, everything predicates back to that they won right away. So, they adopted that. They adopted the mascot of the Golden Knight. And, I don't know if you've ever been here for the pregame. It's a complete theatrical show every night with the Golden Knight out there and, destroying the opponent's skater and fire-breathing dragons and just crazy stuff every night that they've put together. Probably I've been to a lot of rinks, one of the best pregame ceremonies you'll see every night at an arena. So to answer your question, though, it was mixed. But then when they started winning, it seemed like everyone in town was wearing Golden Knights jerseys.
So there's a lot to break down here in terms of Utah and what they're getting. Is there any kind of rivalry at all between the Arizona roster and Vegas that we could translate when this team moves to Utah, or were they just kind of ships in the night and there was never really any interaction between the two outside of when they would face off?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter. The Golden Knights, their rivals in the beginning were San Jose because they played them back-to-back in the playoffs. I think rivalries are born from the playoffs. I think now they've played Dallas 3 out of 5 years. This has become a Western Conference rivalry. Both Bruce Cassidy of the Golden Knights and Pete DeBoer of Dallas, who was the Golden Knights coach for a while, have said that. And I think you really got to get to the playoffs and meet each other, 2 or 3 times to really born that, serious rivalry. So I think with the Coyotes, it was more, hey, when do you play them? Hey, you're playing them tonight, and you play them and you move on. So I don't think there was that intense rivalry. Bill Foley has always prided himself on having pockets of the West kind of Golden Knights fans, Montana, where he's from, the Rocky Mountains, those kind of places. So there might be some internal rivalry there now that mixed in because Foley always liked, Utah is kind of a Golden Knights staple. So there could be some of that with the fans. But specifically to the team, it wasn't a rival.
So as Scotty mentioned, he does play-by-play for Utah State. I do color for BYU football, so we are just very, very football-centric here on the Hanson Scotty Show. And we love the NBA, obviously covering the Utah Jazz for many, many years, so we're very, very familiar with what the NBA is all about. And he and I have both jumped into the NHL postseason, and really for the first time, where I'm really trying to learn the game, understand it better, and get a feel for it. There's one thing that's kind of missing a little bit for me, and I'm hoping maybe you can help me with this. Because you flip on an NBA game, watching last night, you're watching Joel Embiid trying to scathe off elimination, or you're watching the Milwaukee Bucks, who are completely lost and void of their superstars, or you're watching the Lakers and LeBron James. You always have the personalities. You got the characters. You got guys that you tune in because it's a soap opera, and I want to know what's going on with these guys. It feels like in the NHL, you don't have that individualism. It doesn't feel like guys stand out to me. Am I wrong? Am I just too early in my viewing? And are there characters that really do stand out and are must-watch TV?
Well, I think it's more, the character part is interesting. I think it's more just the talent. Like, obviously, if you watch Connor McDavid, he's the best player in the world. But he's a very kind of plain guy, I guess I should say, off the ice. No controversy to him, answers the questions, kind of same with Austin Matthews and like the big stars of the league. And maybe hockey players are just different that way. It's a faster game. Sometimes it's, unless you're listening to the play-by-play, you're not really sure sometimes maybe who has the puck unless it's someone like McDavid or someone special like that. So I don't think you're wrong about that. And again, there's just not the level, I guess, maybe of, I don't want to say controversy, but drama in the NHL, maybe more so than other sports. But there are superstars. There's no question about that. It's just that it's more about their playing than anything else. And when you do watch them, they're difference makers and who the great players are.
How long did it take obviously the fans just latched onto that team, but it was because of the success. If they were 500 for the first 2 or 3 years, Do you think that the fan base would have gravitated towards that team? Probably not as much, but at a significant pace, or was it pretty much all about the winning?
I mean, the winning helped a lot, no question about that. But, it was, like I said, it was the first team in. And someone was always going to be the guinea pig. Someone was always going to be that first Major League Sports, professional team in here. Obviously we'd had minor league sports here. Back in the day, UNLV basketball was the pro sport team here. Now, it's been a while since you can say that.
Well, those guys were well compensated back in the day. So,
NIL. Yeah. It was one of those things where they gravitated towards them. And I think everyone expected them to be what you said, 500 or below. So the winning, just kind of exponentially accelerated the fan base and how many people took notice. Perfect example, my wife never watched hockey ever in her life. She became a huge fan that first year. And winning had a lot to do with that. I mean, they won, they got to the Stanley Cup final, and her friends and, on social media and, just their friends around town and stuff like that. Have you watched the Knights? Did you watch the Knights? They gravitated towards the players. They learned who the players were. They came up with famous, favorite players of theirs. And they watched games and stuff. And again, a lot of that happened around town where people, it's a transient town. There were definitely, you could see on home games, when, different colored jerseys were in the crowd. When original 6 teams came in here, there were a lot of those jerseys in the crowd, because that's where people had come from. That's where they had grown up, fans of those teams. But I think the winning overall kind of sped everything up into why this fan base was so rabid and so passionate. And like I said, they've missed the playoffs one time in 7 years. So they're expected to win here. Fans expect them to win. They expect them to be good. And like I said, they've held up their end of the bargain. They have shown in their history that they're not afraid to move even the most popular player in the history, in Marc-Andre Fleury. They will do anything they can to win here. In terms of roster movement, they've shown the fans that. I think the fans like that a lot about them, that they will do anything possible to continue to win. They have an owner who wants to win, and he will do anything it takes to do that.
So, Ed, just kind of going back to what I'm really familiar with and watching drafts and draft picks and them move into their given position and their new role, and basically going off this Utah NHL team having multiple first-round picks and multiple big picks. For instance, last year we watched Puka Nacua go a little bit later in the draft out of BYU. He blows up and has an incredible rookie year, and he's right there on top of rookie record numbers. We watched Victor Wembanyama come in as a new pick into the NBA, and he is a unicorn. Here we watch Donovan Mitchell come in as a first-round pick, and Donovan Mitchell kind of reshaped what the Jazz would be for the next 4 years. How quickly can draft picks in the NHL play a major role and have a massive impact on outcome, because it feels like this Utah NHL team is relying so heavily on that?
Well, they can, and you just have to look at Connor Bedard in Chicago. And he came in this past year as the most, celebrated kid in decades, one of the most celebrated kids ever in the NHL draft. He went to Chicago. The Blackhawks were not a good team. They're a bad team, but he showed an ability to go in right away and make an impact and produce at the NHL level. A lot of those guys start at the AHL level, a level below, and then they come up. It happens. Dallas has a few 21-year-olds, 20-year-olds who are making an impact in this series that's going on with the Knights right now. It happens. I don't know if it happens as much as other leagues, but you'll see kids from this upcoming draft make an impact fairly quickly. Usually they're the top 2 to 5 picks that can do that. But a lot of them just go to the AHL to develop before they're called up, and sometimes it takes a while. The Knights have guys in the AHL right now that they picked in the first round and picked high who can't meet the roster right now because it's such a veteran-laden roster, and they haven't been able to move on from contracts yet. They've got a lot of free agents in the offseason, so we're going to see what they do there in terms of moving on from guys and maybe now relying on those younger players. But it can happen, and like I said, look no further than Connor Bedard of Chicago. He came in, and it was so hard to live up to the hype of who he was because of how heralded he was. but I thought he did a good job this year doing that. He was hurt for a while, but it's not an easy league. These are big, physical, strong men, and you get put against the boards trying to manage a puck against big, physical 30-year-old men. It can't be easy sometimes. So there's a lot of physicality to it, and I think that helps being in the NHL and developing, in the AHL and developing and getting your body right. Because when you get up here, it's definitely men who are playing this game, and if you're not a man at that point, then you're kind of exposed pretty quickly.
So let's talk about this series that you're in the middle of. Obviously, jumped out to a quick 2-0 lead and then lost the last three. Everything on the line coming up with a big one tonight against Dallas, an elimination game for Vegas if they're unable to win this game. You mentioned the place is going to be rocking tonight for sure, but are you surprised how quickly this series got flipped upside down?
No, because I thought Dallas was the best team in most of the games. They're all, other than empty netters, every game's been a one-goal game. You take away some of the empty nets, and then it's 3-2, 3-2, 3-2. It's a really close series. The Golden Knights are not your average 8 seed. They started off with 0-1 this year, and then they were pretty dead flat average the rest of the way, which dropped them to an 8 seed. But talent-wise, they're not near an 8 seed. They're much better than that. And then Dallas is the number 1 seed in the West. They've been the best team in the West. So not surprised the series is close. Was surprised how it went, though. You rarely will have each team win on home ice 2 straight games. That was a little different. Usually, you win on home ice, then you go and if you're going to lose games, it's going to be on their other guys' ice. So that was a little surprising how the series has played out. But the Golden Knights are, they're in for a big elimination game tonight, and see if they can, play well enough to win it. It'll be close again. These are really even close teams, and it's a great series. It's not a series that should be in the first round. I'll leave it at that. Last year they met in the Western Conference Finals. This should be a Western Conference Final, this series. Instead, because of the Knights dropping down to the 8 seed, it ended up in the first round, which I think is too bad because they're two really, really good teams. And I think had it been in a Western Conference Final, it would have had even more drama than it already has.
Hey, Ed, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the reputation of the front office and the coaching that this Utah team currently has. We had Bill Armstrong on with us. He spent 25 minutes with us the other day and went through just all of the details and had a great conversation. Loved our conversation with him. And we know that this new Utah NHL coach was just named the Canadian national team's coach. But I want to know from an outsider's perspective and an overall big picture, what is their reputation and how confident are you and others that they can erect something strong here in Utah?
It's funny from afar. You never knew because of the arena situation and that they weren't successful. Then when you didn't know how well the organization was run, I think they've made some moves that's going to make that better. I'm fascinated to see what happens in Salt Lake City. I think it's going to be a good thing for them. They have. I think he has a deal to where if he gets an arena in 5 years, he's going to get a team. We'll see if that happens. He couldn't get an arena at this point, so we're not going to. The three of us know how that goes in terms of public money and getting people to vote for stuff like that. That's that rarely happens. So I can't say I followed them closely enough to give an honest opinion on how I thought everything was run there. I just kind of saw their records each year and how they did. And, I guess I'm not surprised, though, that because they didn't get the arena done, something was done for them. And, maybe it's a breath of fresh air. A new coach and how they run their organization. Maybe it's a breath of fresh air and they're going to be a lot better there. You guys can tell me. I don't know how the city's going to react. I assume the city's excited about it. Vegas had their season tickets sold out in no time. Now, again, it was the first team. You guys had major sports there in terms of professional-wise, so you guys kind of know a little more about it than Vegas did when they got here. But I'm assuming it's an exciting time just for them coming.
Oh yeah, it was. What was it? Maybe 40 minutes to an hour. They were over the 15,000 season.
Yeah, for deposits for season
now
tickets.
Now they're in the 30,000s.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. It's an exciting time when you get a new team, and I don't know the population there in terms of diehard hockey fans, but that just tells you all you need to know when there's 15,000 and now 30,000.
All right. So the guy who reached out to you, Lloyd Cole, who's our producer, is a diehard Raiders fan. Hans here is a diehard Raiders fan. So I got to ask you, had Michael Penix been on the board when the Raiders selected at 13, would they have taken him?
Yeah, I think they would have taken him. I think they actually tried to trade up to get him. Couldn't do it. Didn't know if they had the assets at that point at 11. Obviously, Atlanta, put that in the bucket anyway by taking him. I think they would have taken him. I wanted them to take a tackle or a corner, and yet they might have gotten the best pure football player in the draft in Bowers. Now, they're going to have to use him in other ways than just as tight end. They already have, because I think Michael Mayer's a nice player, and he's going to only get better. So, there'll be a lot of 12 formation, a lot of two tight ends. But Bowers was, and I'm sure you guys know this and saw him in college, he's an amazing football player. You can put him a lot of places. So, and I wrote after this, I wrote afterwards, I hate the pick. And you can have both. You can do both. You can love the player. I mean, I don't think anyone who has seen Brock Bowers play football can't say he's an incredible football player. I just thought they had more needs at that specific spot. But specific to the Penix, I think they would have taken Penix and kind of rolled the dice a little with him in terms of, his age and his injury situation in the past. But I do think they would have rolled the dice with him. But it didn't happen. So it's Gardner Minshew and Naden O'Connell for now. There's not much else I think they can do. I think it'll end up being Minshew. I don't think you sign him to 2 years worth 20 and not play him, especially since you didn't get a rookie on a rookie deal. So I do think it'll be Gardner Minshew. He'll have some skill around him. Like I said, Bowers is great. Obviously Devontae's there. Jacoby Myers. They just signed Michael Gallup. I think Zamir White showed enough as a running back last year that he can be a good player. They have to shore up their offensive line, but I do think they've got a chance offensively to do some things, and they were better defensively in the end. So I don't know. The number here in Vegas is 6.5. So I'd take the over right now, but Gardner Minshew has a lot to prove. It's all on him.
Well, Ed, always fun to catch up. I'll see you at a Utah State game coming up here momentarily.
Absolutely.
Utah State, UNLV, and but enjoy the summer, and we look forward to chatting with you again here soon.
Thanks for the help, Ed.
Thanks, you guys. I really appreciate it.
You got it. Ed Graney, who's just been a fixture in the Vegas sports world for a long, long time for the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
So the star quality of players, that's one thing I'm going to have to get over.
Yeah.
Because it's why I typically tune into games that I don't have any skin in the game. I just want to see what the hubbub's all about, what the drama is. And he did point out that there is one specific player that is the best in the NHL. He said the name, and full disclosure, I'm not familiar with it.
That's all right. We're all figuring this thing out.
Can we all
together.
be honest? Lloyd, were you like, oh yeah, of course it's him?
Oh, everybody knows him.
Scotty, am I the only one?
Hey, Dev simplifies in studio. So.
I there's just a lot for me to learn.
Yeah, no, and that's but here's the thing. I think hopefully listeners understand that we're on this path together. And by the time the puck hits the ice in, September, October, when the season kicks off, we're going to be ready. But I think it's going to be fun. And Lloyd and I have some things, and we were talking about it later. And Hans, you're 100% on board that I think what I want and hope out of our show is that you understand that we're football guys first. Okay, we're also NBA guys. We're college basketball guys. Like there's things in our wheelhouse. Hockey has not been part of that wheelhouse, but it will be, and it's going to be a huge part of what we do. So instead of coming on the air and pretending like we're 1,000% experts right out of the gate, which some people are trying to do, and you can see through it like Swiss cheese, is okay, let's just understand that we're all learning this together. There's guys that I've talked to that are in the Jazz office that are trying to put together a franchise right now that they're like, hey, you know what? We're learning. We're trying to figure this thing out. We're all watching nonstop hockey, and I feel like I'm already 8,000% more knowledgeable about the sport now than I was
every time we have
2
an
weeks
interview
ago.
like that.
And every time we learn a little bit more. So let's all just come together and acknowledge we don't know a lot about the sport, but we're all going to figure it out. And by the time August, July, August, September, when camp opens up, that we'll be dialed in and we'll be ready to go. But I think it's okay to admit, hey, we're learning, and let's go on this path together.
Like his take on rookies, that's been on my mind. Like, can rookies really? Because that's what they're counting on. It's like, oh, well, they've got all this future. Oh, they got these draft picks. Oh, they've got assets, and it's like, all right, well, how quick can assets come in and really make a difference in the NHL.
Yes.
And he said, look, these are grown men, and when they put you in the wall, if you're not a grown man, you're done.
Yep, 100%.
So,
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hope you're all having a tremendous day. Dev Simplify here in studio, and there's so many great opportunities to really acknowledge. And I think what's important is when you've got a business, to really focus in on how can you make things seamless? How can programs and departments talk to each other better? How can you make sure that you're firing on all cylinders? And if you need software to help make that happen, Joel, you guys are the ones to make that step in and make that happen, because you're problem solvers. You know, if there's a problem, you guys can step in and say, okay, let's develop this to try to solve your problem within your organization.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And something I want to bring up is when you've been in this business for 13 years, it's very interesting because you work in so many, with so many different customers, and we have so much experience with different, whether it's like we talked about practice planner or logistics or e-commerce or you name it. You know, there's all sorts of experience that comes. So when you sit down with our team, we have a lot of experience to be able to give you suggestions of maybe you should be doing, considering something that you've never even thought of before.
Right. That's one thing that I found with the software world is the more eyes and the more experience, the better.
Right.
And I want you to talk about the expansive nature of your team, because you guys have an incredible team.
Right.
That you can access all different fields of development. Yeah,
we do. Obviously, we have UX, UI, we have full stack developers, front end, back end developers. We have a full branding team. We have a QA team, project managers, product managers. So yeah, we have everything.
Just know that when you call Dev Simplify and you've got a problem, you've got something you need to figure out. If they don't know it directly, if Joel isn't like, oh yeah, I know, you have access to people that will know. And then people that, when it's fixed, will look at it and say, yeah, that looks pretty good, just from start to finish.
Yeah, and a lot of people like to go to these freelance sites, and they'll go out and search and try to find somebody to solve a problem for them. And, a lot of times one person can't solve the full problem, and so to have a team to be able to really look at, the problem from top to bottom and holistically is really important.
So let's get you started. Dev Simplify, which is just software development simplified. It's them simplifying your software development issues, whatever the problem might be. And I know there's many of you that have them. They're offering you a free discovery session. So there's a few spots left. You got to call now, and you're going to get a free discovery session. And Jenny, just talk about what comes with that discovery session.
So the first step is the discovery session, and it is exactly what we say. It's discovering. We sit down with you. We just want to know everything you have to tell us about the product, the idea, the problem you need to solve, whatever it is you want to build, and we just listen. We're in there. We have our operations manager. She's in there taking all the notes. After that's over, we meet as a team. We set up your second meeting with the product goal chart, and that's where from that discovery meeting, we have a really broad perspective of what it is that you're needing. And then we're able to come into that product goal chart meeting with you to break it down in finite, every single thing you need, who are the users, who are the stakeholders, what's MVP. And I would say it's exactly opposite of what a sales meeting is. We're not trying to push you forward. We're actually trying to peel you back.
Yeah.
Because we get people in there, they're excited, like we need this and it can talk to this and we can do all these things. And we're like, okay, perfect. That's the discovery meeting. We want to hear all of it.
Yeah.
But then when we come into the product goal chart meeting, then that's where we really tune into, is that what you really need? Because like Joel said, 13 years of experience, we can pretty well define the have-tos, like the absolutes, the MVPs versus and we can always build on that. That's why our customer retention is on average 3 to 6 years.
Wow. You start that journey by going to devsimplify.com. There's a bumper, and you can just click on that, and you can sign up for your free discovery session, or you can call right now, 801-701-3660. That's 701-3660. If there's something that you're just hung up on and you cannot get to the finish line, and it's got you, and it's got your development team, or it's got some of your employees, and you need this thing fixed, this is the perfect chance to do it. The best professionals in the state of Utah, it's Dev Simplify. That number, 701-3660, 701-3660.
Call right now. Let's get you on the books and take advantage of those free services, too.
It's a big package. So.
It really is. Hans and Scotty, we'll spin the wheel next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
BYU football coach Kalani Sitake.
I was just telling Jake when I got on that you guys are usually in a better mood towards the end of the show, you know. And I remember when I was a younger coach doing the early morning parts, you guys a little bit more ornery, especially PK, you know. So I'm glad to be on the prime spot with you guys, and I'm going to enjoy this interview.
Oh, he's giving me up. I've already enjoyed the interview. I think Kalani's work here is done. I just mentioned that earlier this week, and PK lost his mind. I'm not.
That was back then. The point I'm making is I can be just as crotchety now.
No, I think you're in a bad mood now because it's not golf weather right now. But as soon as the weather picks up and moves on, we can open the golf courses. We will get PK at his best.
This guy knows me.
He's dropping truth bombs left and right here. This is Kalani's psychological profile of PK. Spot on.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10. Presented by Murdoch Hyundai, Utah's #1 Hyundai dealer for 16 years in a row. On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The wheel is loaded, and it's time to talk some sports. This is Sports Roulette with Hans and Scotty on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hope you're all well. Let's get to it. Time for another edition of Sports Roulette. We take some of the big storylines, put it on a roulette wheel, we spin it. Wherever that little ball lands, that's what we end up talking about. So let's get to it, Lloyd.
You subscribe to my podcast?
No, I do not, Pat Beverly. And because of that, I anticipate you will not be showing up on our show, which I think we'll all be okay with. Pat Beverly, in fact, you have the audio, Lloyd. Let's revisit that from last night. After the game, had this interaction with a female reporter from ESPN.
Here. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Before I finish. Yeah. You subscribe to my pod?
Do I subscribe to you? I do not.
So you can't interview me then. Okay, no disrespect.
Well, Jamal is here.
You subscribe? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Again, there were a couple times within a bucket or two. In previous games, y'all have been able to kind of get over that hump, or maybe. Was it anything they did in particular, or was it just one of those where the bucket didn't go down, there wasn't the stop, they made one? What kind of prevented that you all from being able to get over, kind of like you have in the past?
You'll move that mic, please, or just get out the circle, please, for me, please, ma'am. If you're not subscribed to my pod, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Man, it's a bad look.
Yeah, if you didn't hear kind of in the middle of that, he said, "Can you get that mic out of my face?" He's actually pushing the mic and her hand away. It's not like she was really in his face. She was actually like down elbow height while he's sitting and just trying to stay out of the way because she was obviously called out at the start of that thing and didn't want to become a storyline, and then he ends up kicking her out of the circle. It's a ridiculous thing to have happen. And I can't imagine anybody else in that circle was subscribed to his podcast.
No.
That's what I want to know. Like, show me every single other person in that circle. Show me your subscription.
Yeah.
Or did you just single out somebody? Do you just have an axe to grind against her or the company she represents? I'm about 90% sure she's an ESPN person.
Yes. Yep.
So do you have an axe to grind with ESPN? Do you have an axe to grind with her? Did she do a story that was inflammatory? Why? Why her?
Yeah. What's your problem with her?
And how do you know anybody else there is subscribed to a podcast? Because he probably, this is a guess based off the scrums I've been a part of. There's probably anywhere from 10 to 15 people around.
Yeah, you watched the video. It seemed like that was probably a good number. Anywhere from 8 to 13, 10 to 12, around, or 10 to 15, as you mentioned.
So did he take inventory, Scotty?
Nope. He just asked her.
I don't know, man. It's a bad look. It's a bad look for him.
It's a bad look. He's And then also with the throwing the ball at the fans. That's a bad look for Pat Beverly, who, for the most part, I've been a Pat Beverly fan. I like the fact that he wears his emotion on his sleeve. He's been an elite defender. He plays the game different than a lot of other players do in the NBA. So for the most part, I've always liked Pat Beverly. But, boy, that's a bad look for him. And a guy that's on the tail end of his career, you hate to see stuff like that. And also, just the focus on podcasts right now. Like, hey, get my podcast. You subscribe to my podcast. Like, that means his mind's on other things. He doesn't care about NBA basketball right now. These guys right now are focused on what's going on outside of basketball. They see Draymond Green becoming a media star. They see JJ Redick and his podcast and all the success he's having. So they're like, "Ooh, well, I have things to say. I want to get my voice out there." Shut up. Like, you know what? We care about you because you're an NBA player. That stuff was going to come afterwards. But finish playing your NBA career, and then we'll get to that. But as much as I've enjoyed Pat Beverly, and I like the way that he plays the game a little differently, he's kind of a throwback guy to the 80s and 90s. I don't respect that, and that's going to make me like you a lot less. And tell you what, I never listened to your podcast before. Frankly, I didn't know you had a podcast, and I sure as hell ain't going to listen now.
No, that was pretty blatant mistreatment.
Yeah. It's a bad deal, man. Bad deal.
And I know that there's a storm that's kicking up in regards to her gender and her color and everything else that you can think of as to why somebody would remove an individual.
Yeah.
And my guess is there was something that was said or something that was done, and he had identified her.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of.
The only thing I can wrap my brain around, too.
And if he would have stopped and said, hey, anybody else not subscribed? Because I know she's not.
Yeah.
But what was weird is she stopped him and goes, Jamal's here.
Yeah. And I don't know who Jamal is, or I don't know what that story's about.
And he goes, oh, Jamal, you subscribed? And you could hear Jamal, yeah. And he's like, oh, okay, that's cool. But
would you have lied and said, yeah, I subscribed?
Well, for sure.
Yeah, I think I probably would have too. I would like to be like, hell no, I don't. But in the heat of the moment, just to make sure that I got the interview and that we can just move on and get the interview. Because you're right. You said it earlier. We don't want to be there. They don't want us there. We don't want to be there. We need those 2 or 3 little sound bites for a story or to recap. And that's it. You just want to move on. And you want to get out of that locker room as fast as you can so you can go post your story or get your live report or whatever the case is. Nobody wants to be doing this. So can we all just be civil, get our jobs done, and we can all move on and be done?
Well, the other thing is, if she would have come into that locker room, and maybe this happened, but I sure haven't seen it. If she would have come into that locker room, stomped up to him, throwing the mic in his face, and said, how come this team can't win? Or some type of aggressive, Patrick, shooting 24% from the field has really hurt this team.
Yeah.
Or, you've aged out of some of your defensive ability, and that's showing on the court. Then maybe I could understand some of his reaction. Like, I'm not dealing with this right now. Yeah. I'm full of emotion. I'd rather remove you from the circle so I don't say something really mean. But that I didn't get the feel that was the issue.
I didn't either. All right, we'll wrap this thing up next. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present?
This is JJ and Alex.
Tim Twentyman, DetroitLions.com. Let's chat a little bit about Sione Vaki.
And I think Brad Holmes saw that and saw a kid with his skill set, his body type, and now Vaki can be a core special teamer right away. And I think that's how he's going to get on the field right away. Obviously, at running back, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are a really great duo here. But I think where Vaki can step in right away is I wouldn't be surprised if he's returning kicks in rookie minicamp and early in training camp and then be a core special teamer. I think they got a terrific athlete, one of the most versatile players, and they really like that pick. Brad said that was one of the guys he woke up going into Saturday saying, I really want that guy, and moved up to get him, and that's where I see his role early.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Latest on the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, and Aggies? Yeah! We've got you covered. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the Sports Zone.
Standing here beside you, want so much to give you this love in my heart that I'm feeling for you.
say we're crazy.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hey, make Mother's Day easy and get the best gift ever, a blanket or robe from Minky Couture. Mom's going to love it. Shop online at minkycouture.com or any Minky store. Just mention the Zone. In fact, you go to the website, you type in Zone 50, and you will get 50% off. That's right. We'll be out there next week, too. Fired up. Best gift ever, Minky Couture. All right, Dev Simplify with us. We're one final hit. And guys, we love having you out here. We appreciate it. It's always fun because you're problem solvers. We always like identifying with people who can step in and say, look, we understand you're dealing with an issue. All right, let us fix it. And that's the thing. There's not a one-size-fits-all, thing that you guys have.
Not in this world.
Everybody's different. Everybody's problems are different. So you will develop something specifically for individual companies to make sure that they can solve their problems.
Right. Right. And I will say, too, that it's a lot of fun. People think of development, they just think of people coding in a dark room, and then somehow you have a product. But it's not that. You literally, from ideation to creating to testing to building to put it out there to customers using it or your team using it and seeing the effects of it, it's a fun journey. It's great. I can't imagine doing anything else.
So Scotty and I have a business idea called Fudge and Pins.
I like it.
So I like fudge, and he makes pins. So we were just going to do a Fudge and Pins website.
Right.
If somebody out there they've got this idea,
right.
Where does it start for them? Like if they're like, man, I really got this idea. I want to start into this with my business. Where does Dev Simplify step in with them?
Well, first of all, we want to start by validating your idea, and I don't know if that's going to work. So we might just get you out the door right before
you're like, you know what?
I'm telling you, I love the idea.
Oh, I love it, Jenny. Thank you.
I make some good pens.
Yeah.
You guys will like these pens.
And I've got my mom's old fudge recipes.
And I love fudge and pens.
So you're right.
So
okay.
I'm like
you're
your customer. I identify out of the gate.
Thank you for showing some faith in us. We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
But Joel, I do appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, I know that's true.
This discovery kind of ends now.
Right. Yeah. We've discovered it's not a good idea.
We don't need 5 hours to tell you this is a bad idea.
We want to save some money for you.
But let's say somebody has a really good idea.
Right.
Where does it start?
Yeah, we start out again with the discovery call, and we can do that over the phone, over Zoom meeting, or you're welcome to come into the office.
Which is in Provo.
Yeah, which is in Provo, and that's just an overview. We kind of just ask a lot of questions. We want to get all your ideas. Where did the fudge come from? Why did you pick pens? And what is it you want to accomplish with this business idea? And then, like Jenny had mentioned before, we take that back to our team. That meeting might be 30 minutes, might be an hour. We take that back to our team, and we all kind of brainstorm on it. We create an outline internally, come up with, obviously solutions that are obvious to start with. Mm-hmm. And then we schedule the product goal chart meeting with you. And that's where we sit down. And now we have a wireframe, just an outline, I should say, of what we've created to start asking more detailed questions. Like from, when you first come in, from the discovery, we'll identify who are the stakeholders. There might be an admin user, an end user, customer, and then, maybe somebody entering in orders. So we identify who those users are, and now we're going to identify what feature does each one of those users need to accomplish their job, or the customer to, have a good experience.
And I will say, too, with us having me, head of branding, not that I'm tooting my own horn, but toot.
But a little, yeah. Go ahead. Absolutely. This is your opportunity.
I'm just saying that we also look at it from me, like when I'm in those meetings, I'm looking and saying, okay, who is this for? Why is it for them? And I'm asking those questions too. So as we're going through the structuring of this, I'm making sure that we're keeping, like, for you, it's like, oh, well, I have my grandmother's fudge recipe, and Scotty loves pens, and then I'm like, okay, Scotty, who are your pens for? Like the kind of pens you make. So I'm in there hearing, they're looking at from a development building standpoint. I'm looking at it from a marketing standpoint and saying, is this going to be a successful idea? Yeah. And so then I come back in, they come back in, and we have that meeting with you, that gold chart meeting, and we hand you something. You have all of our knowledge now, 13 years of it, and then you can go walk away and say, I don't know, do we have a viable idea? And we're also telling, most time in those meetings, people go, what are we looking at? Like you spend 2 hours with them and they're looking at, what are we looking at, And we try to give, ballpark figures, but it's not until, we're ready. Usually after the product goal chart meeting, we're ready to start knocking down what it's going to cost.
And that's all personalized towards each individual business.
And that discovery session is free right now, but you've just got a little longer to call. There are some open spots left,
Yeah,
right?
I think we have 2 spots left.
2 spots left. So just call 801-701-3660. Get the project off the ground. Get going. Get it up and running, and you've got this free discovery session so you can really start to figure things out. It's over 5 hours in many cases. It's over a $700 value, and it's free to you just because you listen to Hans and Scotty.
Yep.
Because we care.
Because we love you.
We care.
801-701-3660. Put that number in your phone, 701-3660, or go to devsimplify.com.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it.
Great.
You guys are the best.
And get your mom that Minky blanket. I got it. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They love
JJ and Alex coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.